Okay, good morning, kiddos. I wanted to share with you that we're going to be continuing on with quadrant 2. And today bye Rick.
Bye.
Today as we start reading, we're going to be thinking, doing a different job than what we've done before. And that is, you can see up here, we've got the main character chart. And we've done this before. And our main character is Fred. And we're going to be learning about this book and themes and ideas through the eyes of Fred. And you can see that we've done this before in class. We're going to be looking at the actions that of Fred, the words that she speaks, and the feelings that she expresses. And through that, we're going to be learning about what traits she has, what her personality is. And again, we're going to be learning about the story through her. So I wanted to start off by giving, actually it was an action, I believe, through quadrant 1. And on page 6, it says on page 15, Fred writes, or we write, I ran all the way to school. Okay, so I'm going to write that. Ran all the way to school. And I think it was with that good feeling. Okay, with that good feeling. And this is page 15. So we're going to tell where we got that piece of text. Now, the trait I understand about Fred is that she loves school. Okay, she's not like Mama. Mama does not like school. Fred loves school. So we know that having a teacher come to town is very, very important. So the trait is, we could say, Fred loves school. And let me get that to the font. I like this fun one. Fred loves school. So today I'm going to be adding to this character chart. I don't know if I'll be having you add to it today for an assignment. I might wait till tomorrow. But I'm going to be starting on chapter 6. Okay, so each and every time there's an action, word, or feeling that's expressed by Fred, it's usually a good idea to stop and add it to our chart. Okay, chapter 6, page 34. After lunch that first day, Miss Agnes said she needed to find out how much writing we had learned. I was not happy to do this because I hadn't learned much. She gave us new pencils and paper with lines and told us to write our names and the day we were born. The older ones were to write something about themselves, just anything to show Miss Agnes what we could do. Yeah, because Miss Agnes doesn't know any of these children. We all looked at Bertha because Bertha was so good at writing. Seemed like she was writing all the time. Even before we went to school, she used to get a pencil from Old Man Anderson, and she'd hunker down by the boxes in the store and she'd copy the writing. She'd write Olympia beer and Pillsbury flour and anything that was printed on the boxes. She didn't know what the letters said. She just thought they were pretty. So even though this is about Bertha, we do understand a little bit that Bertha probably has beautiful handwriting, but it sounds like she doesn't understand what the letters mean. But there was a little clue about Fred that Miss Agnes said she needed to find out how much writing we had learned. I was not happy to do this because I hadn't learned much. So this is a feeling, okay? So we could say, she is not happy to write. And this is on page 34. And what this tells us, not that one, we want the permanent marker. What this tells us about Fred is that it says when she says she hadn't learned much, it sounds like she's maybe a little embarrassed. Embarrassed by lack of learning. And I never embarrassed. There we go. You mean embarrassed? I do mean embarrassed. See, Miss B doesn't spell very good either. Okay, so we've learned that she's not happy to write on page 34, and it sounds like she's embarrassed. Let me keep reading. And I'm on page 35. Old man Anderson wrote the alphabet the way it goes on a piece of paper for her. Bertha, you'll be my secretary when you grow up, he told her. She never let loose of that piece of paper. It was always in her pocket. She'd copy the letters in the snow with a stick or in the mud on the riverbank. Bertha was funny that way. Miss Agnes stopped in surprise when she saw Bertha's writing. Well, Bertha, she bent to look carefully at each letter. It would be hard to improve on that, she said. Bertha looked really shining, like having Miss Agnes said what a good writer she was. So Miss Agnes is kind. Okay, so even though we're writing about Bertha, we're learning about Miss Agnes, how she talks to other children. She talked very, very kindly. I'll teach you how to write cursive now. You're ready. I knew what that was. That kind of writing some grown-ups used, just flying across the paper 90 miles an hour. I couldn't wait to learn that too. So I learned cursive in 3rd grade. It's something we haven't done as much since I've started teaching, which is teaching handwriting. But years and years ago, handwriting was a huge skill. Marie looked like she was going to cry. She was 14, but she'd only spent a few months in school off and on. Her mom had all those babies Marie had to take care of when her mom went to help her dad on the trap line. She couldn't write much at all. She put her head down. So even though we're writing about Fred, we're learning about what other children feel about school. And here is Marie. She is, what is she, 14? She's like close to being high school age, and she's barely been in school. And we can tell that how awful she feels because she's putting her head down. She's overwhelmed. Miss Agnes walked around and looked at everyone's writing. Charlie Boy and Selena could write their names, but that was all. None of us were good at writing except Bertha. Miss Agnes took a roll of masking tape from her shelf and put a strip on each desk. She wrote the alphabet in printing on the strip with a pen. She wrote the big letters and then the little letters, and then she taped a paper on our desk with her name written in perfect letters. That was to help us remember. For Bertha, she wrote the letters in cursive. Then she started to show the rest of us on the blackboard what each letter is supposed to look like, starting with the vowels, because she said used one of these in every word. So the vowels had to be really good. Like if on a shopping list you wrote an O, so it looked like an E, you might get a pet instead of a pot. She made it funny, showing us how awful letters looked when they were made silly. So Miss Agnes is a lovely teacher. She starts right where the kids need her to need her. She starts with basic writing. She doesn't start where the kids are writing essays. She starts where they are looking at letters. I love this about Miss Agnes. Miss Agnes called a sloppy O a hairy O, because when you don't write an O right, it looks like a little face with one hair sticking up on top. We really laughed at that. And she said the nose of an E was supposed to be sharp enough to prick your finger on. Then she drew a finger getting pricked by the sharp point on the E. So she's making the children laugh. We never tried to do it right before. We just wrote any which way. So we were surprised to find Miss Agnes was going to be so picky. She said if we wrote our letters sloppy, she would give us back our work and make us do it over. So even though Miss Agnes is funny, she also has high standards, and she's saying like, nope, you need to do it right. You'd think it would make me mad to do that, but it made me glad. Like when my grandma makes me do something over and over till I get it right, I feel like she's going to make sure I learn it good, so I don't feel mad. That's how I felt now. So this is Fred expressing a feeling. And she says it was, feels, oops, feels glad Miss Agnes is making her write letters neatly. And let me get Miss Agnes spelled right. And we'll get that. And the trait it shows us, I think it shows us that Fred likes to be pushed. She doesn't want, just like when her grandmother made her do the work over and over, she wants to do a good job. So this idea of she likes to persevere. And I don't know if I spelled persevere. Persevere means to work hard. All right. And I best actually stop there. I don't want to run out of time, and I'll do a part 2 for Miss Agnes in just a minute. Okay.